Hey y'all, Dan from the Southern Paddler Channel here, and welcome to day one of my current river trip in southern Missouri. As you've seen already, we arrived in Eminence, Missouri the day before, which was Wednesday, April the 12th. We got most of our driving in that day because we came from all over Alabama, from Mobile to almost the Tennessee state line. It was 6 to 7 hours for most of us to get there. So we arrived at Eminence the day before, had a nice stay at the Shady Lane Motel, had supper there in Eminence that night, and then got up the next morning, and here we are at Big Spring meeting Travis from Windy Floats, getting our gear loaded up. Shout out to Travis and Windy Floats. Travis did a good job getting everything secure and loaded up for us. Super nice guy, great service from Windy Floats. And so we got loaded up. We're on the road here for about a 2-hour drive heading up to Baptist Camp, which is where we'll start our trip, and we'll float back down to where we just left our vehicles. And as you can tell here in the van, people just love that camera. We did stop once, and Travis made sure everything was secure. Good job, Travis. Thank you for that. We got back on the road, and here we are, finally arrived at Baptist Camp. Once again, Dawn loves that camera. So here we are getting everything unloaded. We're going to load up our boats, hit the river, and start day one of our current river trip. Well, let's take a minute and introduce everybody. First of all, from left to right is my girlfriend Dawn. Dawn is a strong paddler and a great adventurer, and even though she hadn't paddled with this group before, I knew she'd be a great addition, and she was. Next to her is, of course, yours truly. Next to me is my old buddy Gray. You'll remember Gray from the Buffalo National River trip. Gray has plenty of experience, both whitewater and recreational paddling, and there's no worries there. Next to Gray and behind Tammy is Charlie. Charlie was our group leader. He was the one that planned this trip out, and he had done this trip before. He was also our group lead for the Buffalo National River trip, and he is a fantastic group leader. I would follow Charlie down any river. In front of him and his wife Tammy, I'd gotten to paddle with her once before, but this was the first multi-day trip that we got to do together, and it was great to get to know her better. Next to Charlie is Nick. I'd done a couple of trips with Nick. Nick, again, has mostly whitewater experience, but this was his first kayak camping experience, and he absolutely loved it. Last, but certainly not least, is my old buddy Wes. You'll remember Wes from the Buffalo National River trip last year, as well as the Okmulgee River trip I did in Georgia with River King Pete. All right, this is our crew, so let's get started down this river. Man, let me tell you, there is nothing like shoving off for that first time on a multi-day trip. You're on the water and you know that you've got several days of paddling and camping ahead of you. It was a beautiful spring day. Here's our whole group. We just started. You see the red buds are blooming, and we're off to a great start, except 5 minutes into this trip, I broke my rear camera pole. Now, I did have an extra one with me, and it didn't even break the whole pole. It's a sectional pole. It just broke one section, but man, that limb was just too much for it and snapped it off. But I tell you what, not only did I have an extra pole, but you see right here, I'll always keep my cameras tethered to the boat with paracord, and you can see why. I've broken so many of those poles, but I've never lost a camera because they are always tied to the boat. So I'm going to pull over, replace that broken section, and we're going to keep on going down this beautiful river. Right at the end of day one, just before we reached our campsite, we came to the Cedar Grove Low Water Bridge. This was basically just a concrete road that goes across a river and has a series of culverts to allow the water to go through. You can see the culverts behind me and the water rushing into them. This is designed under normal conditions to let the water flow as you see there and still allow you to drive over it. In higher water conditions, the water will go over the bridge. So we decided we had to portage around this.
What's the verdict?
You can hear Dawn asking what's the verdict and whose is the heaviest. We had a bet as to whether Gray's canoe or mine would be the heaviest. It was really close, and they were both really heavy. But we had to portage, as you can tell, just a little bit past the shallow waters to get back to where we could all put in. But here we've got all the boats moved down, and so we're just about done. And let me tell you, that was not easy. Well, at 4:15, we reached Cedar Grove Campground. We spent probably 4 hours or less on the water and only covered about 7 miles. But with the shuttle that morning and then the portage late this afternoon, we knew that it'd be kind of a short day. On the Buffalo National River trip, we usually stayed on the river. But on this trip, we kind of targeted some of the campgrounds along the way. As you can see, this one's really nice and open. The ground is clear. It has fire rings and camp tables. There's a bathhouse nearby. So all of these things make for great campsites. Being our first night on the river, we all brought steaks to grill. Gray brought potatoes. He cooked all that for us, made some homemade salsa. As you can tell, we had a good time just sitting around the fire eating our supper. And we ended the day with an absolutely beautiful sunset. Man, just look at that sun going down over those hills in southern Missouri. A fitting end to a great first day of our paddle trip. I love waking up at first light at camp, especially without a rain fly. The weather forecast was good enough to where I didn't feel like I needed it, although I did have one with me, but I didn't put it up. So we get our stuff mostly packed up, and then we head over to the other campsite, meet up with the guys, and we all fix us some breakfast and coffee and just kind of sit around and get woke up and get warmed up for the morning and get ready to head out for day 2.
No, I know it's coming.
Would you wait for me? Okay, just checking. I know you would.
Would you lay to my ass? Yeah.
No, absolutely not.
I was practicing my overdub for the video.
Oh, okay.
As day 2 draws to a close, we beach at Round Spring.
This showdown between Charlie and Tammy.
As day 2 draws to a close, we beach at Round Springs. Just kidding. But we are at Round Springs, and it is the end of day 2. As you can see, we've covered about 26 miles today. Total trip miles are 34. We spent about 9.5 hours on the water today. And man, you can tell here it was an absolute beautiful day. What a fantastic trip. So here we are paying our fees to stay at the campground. Again, I would prefer to be on the river, but we're at a campground. There's Gray and Nick and Wes on the left, Charlie and Tammy on the right. We were up the hill at the next spot and just barely found a place good enough to actually hang a hammock. But anyway, it was nice to be off the river for the day. We got set up for camp, and it was kind of late. It was already about 6 o'clock, I think, by the time we got there. So I think we all got showers, which is a nice thing of being at the campground. That dog you see there ate my peanut butter and crackers. He got in my boat while we were up at the camp. Kind of irritated me, but anyway, that's part of it. We got showers. We hung out around camp, had supper, and after a good day of paddling and enjoying each other around the campfire, it was time to turn in. So we got some good rest and getting ready for day 3. Hope to see you on the next one.
At points, but man, being out in the desert.
Yeah, that was just like John here trail, man. You out there out west, anywhere out west, man, it's just